Well, that was a section on natural selection. And, I don't think any of us can deny that one of the most influential books that's been written in the last 200 years was Darwin's book on the origin of species by means of natural selection. And the title really says it all. The origin of species. Everything we see in our world today got its start through this magical process of natural selection. And in this chapter of the book, I use a family of dogs to illustrate exactly why it is that this process by itself can't get you the variety of creatures that we see in front of us today. But what I'd like to do with our time right now is just use a different example to show you the same thing. And this is an example the scientific community likes to use to basically say, look, we see change happening right in front of us. Surely evolution is true. And in order to do that, I have to introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Finley, as in Elephantly. He's Irish. He's also a little bit sad because he knows, and I know, that 200 years ago in Africa, the average tusk length on an elephant was actually twice as big as what we find today. And he's a little bit jealous, and I can't say I blame him. So what happened here? Hunters, when they go after elephants, are going to go after the ones with the bigger tusks. So when you kill off all the big tusk elephants, you're just left with the little tusk ones to pass on their genes to the next generation. And so they're the ones that are having all the little baby elephants. So the tusk length in this population of elephants has changed rather dramatically over these last 200 years. But the question isn't whether or not these elephants are changing. They most certainly are. The real question is whether or not those changes can one day get you a brand new animal. And it really doesn't seem like that much of a stretch, does it? I mean, we've seen a dramatic change in elephant tusk length in just the last 200 years. Can you imagine if you had 200 million to work with? I mean, the amount of changes that could build up in that period of time, at the end of it, maybe you don't even have an elephant anymore. But this is where we have to be very careful. Think about how this change happened, right? We began with elephants that had a variety of tusk lengths, but now we're just left with the little tusk elephants. In other words, genetic information in this population has been lost. What do you suppose you need for these elephants to one day branch off into a brand new animal? You'd need an addition of genetic information for that to happen. So natural selection actually goes the wrong way. A lot of people like to pretend that all change is the same, and that as long as you have enough of it, you can get one kind of animal turning into another one over a long period of time. But natural selection does not create the fit. It doesn't make anything. All it does is eliminate the unfit. Regardless of how long you give it, this type of change can't get you the new DNA information to code for features that this animal didn't have before. And mutations don't help, of course. We talked about those in the last section. All they do is wreck genetic information. Remember, all they are copy errors in your genetic code. They're not magical information-giving miracles. You do not want them. They're bad. They rarely give survival advantages, and even when they do, it's just a result of that creature's genetic code being broken or corrupted or destroyed in some way. And just like the process of natural selection itself, that's exactly the opposite of what needs to happen for the grand story of evolution to be true. To get brand new animals, you need a mechanism to get you brand new genetic information, not something that just messes up what's already there. Natural selection, small changes, speciation, whatever you want to call it, it's real, observable science. Nobody denies that. But the bigger story of evolution by common descent, it requires something fundamentally different. It requires new genetic information to be made from scratch. And that's something that we never, ever see happening. Isn't that right, Finley?